Well, welcome in. I'm Ariel Onstad, and we've got a busy day of news to get to, not just in the White House, but also on Capitol Hill, where, as you can see from live images happening right now, House Speaker Mike Johnson is debating House Resolution 4405, also known as the Epstein Files Transparency Act. A vote is expected this afternoon on whether or not to compel the Justice Department to release what they have related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the House has been debating this for about 40 minutes. We've seen different representatives come to the House floor as they've talked about this petition. We're going to continue to keep you updated. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what happened today with a news conference held by Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and other lawmakers this morning on what they're trying to accomplish with the release of the Epstein files. So we're going to get to that. We do know that this debate has been going on for some time and will continue. House Speaker Mike Johnson, I was just listening to him a bit ago where he was talking about how he wants to go about releasing the Epstein files in the right way, to quote him. So we're going to come back to that. In the meantime, I do want to continue to keep you updated on some major stories we're following here in our newsroom. And one of them involves a story we discussed with you yesterday right here on Fox Local. An ex-sheriff's candidate is accused of scamming people. Multiple warrants are out for his arrest. Our Kevin Stewart has been following up on this story. Kevin, what new information are you learning today?
Okay, let's refresh people's memory. We're talking about Anthony Hogan. He was the candidate for sheriff, one of several candidates for sheriff in Cobb County back in 2024 on the GOP ticket. He finished third. After he lost that race, he was currently employed at the time with Clayton County Sheriff's Department. He left that job and went over to the city of South Fulton and got a job there and lost his job within less than 2 weeks. We looked into his personnel file and obtained this letter from the city of South Fulton saying that he lost his job for criminal acts and conduct unbecoming. I want to read a portion of that letter to you. On August 28th, 2024, it was brought to our attention that you advertised the sale of a vehicle on Facebook to a couple who subsequently sent you $7,800. You allegedly directed them to a location where the keys and the vehicle were supposed to be. However, upon arrival, the couple found that there was no vehicle at the specified location. As a result, they filed a report with the City of South Fulton Police Department. Further investigation revealed that you failed to return the funds to the victims. During an interview with our Criminal Investigations Division, you provided false information to the assigned detective. Additionally, you presented an altered image to an attempt to deceive the investigation by claiming that you had returned the money. It goes on to say your actions constitute a serious breach of trust and violate the ethical standards expected of all members of the South Fulton Police Department. And at that note, he was fired August 29th. 2024. This is a story that we've been following for a good month now, and we had our first story yesterday after we had talked to several people across the metro area who say they were scammed by him. People who said that one man from Atlanta, a small businessman, who said that he actually bought a car for him in cash and didn't get the title back, and he's been waiting more than a year. We talked to a woman who took out a $30,000 loan to give him $20,000 as a loan and only paid $5,000 back. The story that he couldn't sign for this loan is because his credit was bad because of the issue was going on with his father. And this has been a big mess, and it's a big concern for a lot of people. We've been getting emails and checking into things, many different police reports all across North Georgia on this story. Ariel?
Yeah, Kevin, this is very interesting, and especially considering the fact that things just continue to come to light regarding this story. One thing I want to clear up right now before I ask you some more questions. I know yesterday you reached out to Hogan trying to get more information about this story. As of now, has he responded to you in any way or followed up?
No, not at all. We're going to keep trying. As I noted, when we first started looking into this in late September, early October, I reached out to him. I believe it was like October 6th, 7th, somewhere around there, to see if he had comment. And he said that he wanted to talk to us, but his lawyer wouldn't let him. He said, "Do you want to talk by phone or on camera?" I said, "Hey, no matter how you want to do it, we'll do it. We want to get your side of the story." And that went nowhere. We reached out again yesterday by telephone, calling him, texting, and got no answer. So we'll see how that goes. We still want to talk to him. If he's listening,
yeah,
we're more than willing to get your side of the story. There's both sides of the story, and that's what we aim as journalists to do. But so far, he's not talking.
Kevin, curious here too, with the alleged victims that you've spoken to and gotten information from, were they all his co-workers, or how were they related to him, generally speaking?
You know, it really is all over the place. When we're talking about the cases that we've followed closely with the warrants, one person was a co-worker, another person was just someone I would say that they worked together in the National Guard. We haven't had a chance to dig deep into that one, but I've talked to the person who says they were victimized, and I've read the police report, but they know each other in that fashion. Another man that you saw in our story yesterday, he's a small businessman. I mentioned him a moment ago. He just posted an ad for the car, and he bought it that way. So it's really all over the place. We've seen other police reports that indicate some of this appears to be random or maybe tied to another type of business. These are things that we continue to look into.
Kevin, good to know. Final question for you here. As of right now, 4 active warrants for his arrest. Is that correct?
We have a warrant in Fulton County, 2 in Fulton County, 1 in Jasper County involving a truck, and there was another one that was issued back in August in Fulton County in Atlanta, but because the address was bad, that warrant was recalled.
Got it.
Yeah, that's what we've got so far.
Kevin, thank you so much for breaking this down. Very interesting story. I have no doubt you're going to stay on top of it. You've been working on this for a while. So thank you, as always, for joining the conversation and letting us know what's going on. We appreciate it. Okay, guys, I'm going to bring you back here because we're going to move on to another story that unfolded here recently, and that involved a robbery attempt. Police say a robbery attempt turned into a deadly shootout along Old Covington Highway, and one person is dead after all of this. Our Kim Leffler's been following up on this story. Kim, absolutely tragic. What are you learning as of now since you've been following up?
Well, we know this shooting happened a little after 7:30 last night at the Circle K. You can still see some bullet holes in the glass there. And as you mentioned, police say this is all a result of a shootout from an attempted robbery. Now, take a look at some video that we got from the scene here overnight. DeKalb County police say 19-year-old Tristan Mays tried to rob another man, which led to a shootout. Police say Mays was shot and killed. The second man ran from the gas station here to a neighborhood behind the building. Police found that man in the neighborhood with a gunshot wound. Medics rushed him to the hospital, but he's expected to be okay. Now, people who live near here were shocked to hear about the violence that unfolded here overnight.
Well, it's bad for the neighborhood. Of course, if something like that happened, you know, these days, you know, stuff like that is kind of seem like it started happening kind of, you know, getting kind of a norm in which we got to really, you know, take accountability. You know, you got to start really, and the point these days, kids growing up, you know, people not really taking parenthood seriously, you ask me.
No, DeKalb County police do not plan to charge the surviving victim. We did speak with the store manager here, and he did say that the people behind this were not customers in the store. He's not sure why they were here at the time, but certainly a very busy night unfolding here in DeKalb County. Ariel.
So, Kim, this is really interesting and good to know, because if you were around that area and wondered what all the police activity was about, this definitely sheds some light on how this happened. Do we know what the robbery was all about, what this attempted robbery was over, what was trying to be stolen?
We don't at this point. DeKalb County police have not said exactly what the robbers were trying to get. Again, the store manager here that I spoke with says that the people behind this were not customers in the store, so that's still unclear at this point.
Okay, good to know. And one person is dead, like you said, and the other person police don't expect to charge because they believe he acted in self-defense. So, Kim Leffler, thank you so much for following up on this story for us. We appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll see you back here on Fox Local as the evening progresses with more updates, so thank you. Okay, guys, we're going to continue to move on here nationally because we've got a lot of stories to cover, and one of them involves the House is set to vote on whether or not to compel the Justice Department to release what it has on Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender. So this has been a big story we've been talking about today, and I want to bring you live. You can see the House floor right now as congressmen continue to debate this. Different representatives have come to the floor for debate. We know it's been going on for at least 40 minutes now. Just a little bit before we came on live with you here for our live stream, I'm looking at the House updates, and it does say that they voted to suspend the rules so that way they could continue to debate. And so right now you can see that this is happening. And that is something that we're going to continue to monitor when they do put this up for a vote. But right now, they're proceeding with 40 minutes of debate on this resolution, also known as the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And after months of back and forth, the House is expected to finally vote today. It's in a surprise reversal. We know that President Donald Trump has actually said now that he wants the files to be released, and he's pushing for Republican representatives to vote yay on this. California Rep. Ro Khanna said today in a news conference it's the first real reckoning for the Epstein case, saying that this isn't political. It's not about questions of Trump or Biden. It's about the question of doing the right thing for survivors of abuse. He says that they want to get a vote today, and he expects an overwhelming vote in the House of Representatives, and he doesn't want anybody to play any games. One of the things that we're taking a look at, considering all of this, is that this bill does have bipartisan support. So Democrat, California Representative Ro Khanna was discussing in a news conference this morning his support. And then you have Republicans, Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and Republican Thomas Mazie also discussing this. But despite having bipartisan support, the bill was strongly opposed by House Republican leaders and the White House originally. House lawmakers gained enough signature, though, to thwart this because they voted on a discharge petition that would circumvent the House Speaker Mike Johnson and move the bill to a vote. And just a little bit before we came on here, I was listening to the House Speaker on the floor talking about what he ultimately wants regarding this legislation. He says he wants it to happen the right way, saying the discharge petition doesn't have adequate protections and risks re-victimizing those who were trafficked and exploited. Republican Thomas Mazie says that they fought the president, the attorney general, the FBI director, the Speaker of the House, and the vice president to get this win and to bring this resolution forward for a vote. One of the things to keep in mind, Republicans who endorsed the bill took some big shots for doing so. We know that Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Trump ally, has faced backlash from President Trump, who called her a traitor. But as I was just discussing, Trump now supports releasing the files and says he's ready for this to stop distracting them from the work his administration is doing. After the House vote, the bill would then need to be approved by the Senate before going to President Trump's desk, and it's unclear how the Senate is going to handle this measure. I'd like to let you listen in on a news conference held this morning with victims from the Jeffrey Epstein case and House leaders. Let's listen.
I woke up this morning and I turned to my weather app to check the temperature, and it was 32 degrees. And my first thought was, hell has froze over. I want to speak goodness and love and hope into the women standing behind me and all of the other survivors whose names you don't even know, but stand with these women. They are survivors, and they are strong, and they are courageous, and they are daughters of God. They are not victims. These women have fought the most horrific fight that no woman should have to fight, and they did it by banding together and never giving up. And that's what we did by fighting so hard against the most powerful people in the world, even the President of the United States, in order to make this vote happen today. I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me. And I want to tell you that this only became possible today because the American people whom we serve as representatives here in Congress, demanded that this vote happen, and they put more pressure on every single elected politician in this city than has ever been put on them. And today you are going to see probably a unanimous vote in the House to release the Epstein files, but the real fight will happen after that. While I want to see every single name released so that these women don't have to live in fear and intimidation, which is something I've had a small taste of in just the past few days, just a small taste. They've been living it for years. But the real test will be, will the Department of Justice release the files? Or will it all remain tied up in investigations? Will the CIA release the files? Will a judge in New York release the information? That's information that needs to come out. And will the list of names that these women privately hold, and they hold it because of their fear in their heart of what would happen to them if they release it on their own, will that list of names come out? That's the real test. So I want to thank Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna for your bravery in doing something that is much needed in America, crossing the political aisle that has become bigger than the Grand Canyon in America. But these men crossed that aisle on behalf of these women. And that is more of what is needed today in America than ever in our history. So thank you so much. Who's next? Ro, I'll let you introduce.
Okay, so that was Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about her efforts to bring this House resolution forward for a vote. I'm continuing to monitor. To my right here, we have live images of the House floor, and I'll continue to keep you updated as things progress. If we get a vote, I'll let you know what they have decided, what lawmakers have decided, as soon as we learn more information. In the meantime, while this is going on, we do know that President Donald Trump has welcomed the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to the White House today. And this is actually a pretty significant development. You're taking a look at images that unfolded just a few hours ago. The president conducted or ordered a military to conduct an aircraft flyover during the Crown Prince's arrival. Ahead of the Crown Prince's visit, President Trump, announced that the U.S. would sell F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia. But now delivering these jets is going to be a massive undertaking and geopolitically fraught. We know that spinning production lines into high gear to fill these orders for Saudi F-35s could take years, as could training pilots to fly them. Lawmakers or future administrations could halt the process before it's complete, but that is something that the Trump administration said it wanted to do for Saudi Arabia. Today, the Crown Prince announced Saudi Arabia will invest $1 trillion into the United States, up from a $600 billion investment that he had originally said. This is something President Trump says will go towards job creation here in the United States. As to where this is headed, the Trump administration is going to host a black tie dinner tonight with more than 100 invited guests for the Crown Prince. The event is not a state dinner, but it is the first formal dinner to honor the country's leader, hosted by Trump during his second term. Trump has said that it is not just a meeting, but, quote, we are honoring Saudi Arabia, end quote. I'd like to let you listen in on questions between reporters and the Crown Prince and President Trump just a little bit ago. They asked about this investment, this $1 trillion investment, and they also asked about the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, which, if you have kept up with, you know that the Crown Prince is named in a 2021 U.S. intelligence report as being behind that killing. But let's listen to what they discussed with reporters just a bit ago.
Areas and the agreement that we are signing today in many areas in technology, in AI, in earth materials, magnet, etc. That will create a lot of investment opportunities.
So you are doing that now. You're saying to me now that the 600 billion will be 1 trillion.
Definitely, because what we are signing, it will facilitate that, and
I like that very much.
He works hard.
No, that's great. I appreciate that. That's great. We're doing numbers that nobody's ever done. And in all fairness, if you didn't see potential in the U.S., you wouldn't be doing that.
Definitely.
You don't want to lose money.
As you said, Mr. President, it's the most hottest country in the planet. But what you're creating is not about opportunity today. It's about also long-term opportunity in the United States of America that will affect American economy positively in the next coming decades. Preparing the right foundation of emerging technologies. That's a game changer for America in a good way, and we want to be part of it.
Yeah, we're doing really well. And this, you don't see what we're doing so much because we have, although the construction industry sees it. If you look at Caterpillar, who's been incredible, the tractors, everything else, the numbers that we're doing in construction are unbelievable. Some of the plants that we're building, AI, and they're building their own electric with the plant. I gave them the right to build their own electric with the plant because no country, frankly, will have this. China's working very hard to produce enough electric, but we're beating China substantially at AI, which is a big thing. And we had a great meeting 2 weeks ago with President Xi, but on AI, we're doing well.
We're talking about $1 trillion of investment. Could the kingdom continue to do that with oil prices in the mid-60s?
Yeah, we are not creating fake opportunities to, please America or please President Trump. It's real opportunities. For example, when you ask about the AI and the chips, Saudi Arabia have a huge demand a huge need of computing power, and we're going to spend in the short term around $50 billion by consuming those semiconductors for our needs in Saudi Arabia. And with the agreement that we're going to have with the United States of America, that will allow us to focus that consuming power in the short term by $50 billion from the States of America, and long term with hundreds of billions of dollars in the long term. So there's a lot of real opportunities that fit to our need in Saudi Arabia and fit to our investment strategy.
Mr. President, is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president? Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the worst in the business. But I'll answer your question.
Thank you.
I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine. They do business all over. They've done very little with Saudi Arabia, actually. I'm sure they could do a lot. And anything they've done has been very good. That's what we've done. We've built a tremendous business for a long time. I've been very successful. I decided to leave that success behind and make America very successful. And I've made America more successful by far than it ever was, and that it ever could have been, no matter who was president. There would be nobody bringing in $21 trillion, that I can tell you right now. As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen, but he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
Just you ask, Mr. President, you allow me to answer. I feel painful about the families of 9/11 in America, but we have to focus on reality based on CIA documents and based on a lot of documents that Osama bin Laden, he used Saudi people in that event for one main purpose, is to destroy this relation, to destroy the American-Saudi relation. That's the purpose of 9/11. So whoever buying that means they are helping Osama bin Laden's purpose of destroying this relation. He knows that strong relation between America and Saudi Arabia, it's bad for extremism, it's bad for terrorism. And we have to approve him wrong and to build our relation, continue developing our relation. It's critical in the safety of the world. It's critical against extremism and terrorism. About the journalists, it's really painful to hear anyone that been losing his life for no real purpose or nothing illegal way, and it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc. in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that, and it's painful and it's a huge mistake, and we are doing our best that this doesn't happen again.
Mr. President.
Well, that was, of course, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and President Donald Trump speaking from the White House and answering reporters' questions. This is a two-day visit from Saudi Arabia that was going to continue tomorrow, Wednesday, with a joint U.S.-Saudi investment conference at the Kennedy Center in Washington. We're going to continue to keep you updated on that as it unfolds. In the meantime, coming up here, you guys, I want to get a check of your weather forecast. We've got a lot of things on deck, so we'll see you here coming up. Well, welcome back in. I'm Ariel Onstad here with meteorologist Jonathan Stacy. Jonathan, always a pleasure. I'm ready to talk weather. I feel like you probably feel a broken record at this point, but
I feel a broken record, like a broken record, or maybe I'm going to break some records. Well,
okay, let's do it.
The Mercury is definitely trying to. We are coming to the end of meteorological fall, but it feels like the end of meteorological summer. Above average heat taking over the center of the nation, specifically the desert Southwest, moving across the southern Great Plains, over the Ozarks and the Mississippi, and into the deep south. Georgia, you get to participate tomorrow with temperatures that are really out of pocket. Today, we're looking at highs running some 10 degrees above average. Right now, we're at 73 degrees, but you can see that warmth spread throughout, once again, the southeast. So we're on record watch. Wednesday, the record temperature, 80 degrees. We're forecasting 78 degrees, so probably not tomorrow, but I think we'll ring the bell. And that's what David Chandler says, our chief meteorologist here. 81 degrees for our forecast high. The record set back in 1979 of 79 degrees, and then we could perhaps tie a record by Friday with a pair of sevens. That record set back in 2011. Where is the big time weather of the day? Well, it's across the Ohio River Valley. They're getting a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some wet weather, but also some snow leading the way, especially as you go up near the Great Lakes. There is a cold front that is attached to that area of low pressure, but it's kind of long and it's going to drift down to the south, but it doesn't have a lot of moisture to work with. But the moisture that it does tap in on is going to give us a really slow chance or small chance for rain at 10%. That's tomorrow. And then a bigger chance for rain comes as another front moves in Friday into Saturday. So let's get the first one out the way. This is 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. You'll have more clouds tomorrow morning, Ariel, than you had today. Don't be discouraged. I don't think it's going to be a rainy day by any stretch, but a few spritzes and sprinkles out there can't be ruled out, especially for the foothills and the mountains. That's the view at 10 o'clock. Once again, sunshine kind of shut out for the first part of the day. That thing gets out of here fairly quickly. And then a little area of high pressure tries to nose in from the south. Okay, it's not going to have much control over us because it's going to give us a dry day Thursday, but by Friday, the clouds come back, and then we're in the warm regime, in the warm sector of the next system. So Friday's going to be really nice and warm. The southerly winds build in, but clouds quickly move in, and I think we're going to get sprayed likely during the PM hours. And I think there's a pretty decent lobe of energy that will come through in the darkness of night, Friday going into Saturday. So we'll have our eyes peeled for that. But at this point, I think if we can get it out of here during the overnight hours, we won't have to sacrifice so much of our Saturday, and we'll be able to perhaps maybe go outside with some cloud cover, but maybe the shower activity is going to be fairly minimal. When it's all said and done, most areas getting less than half an inch, once again, with a fair share of the showers decorated to the north. Saturday's a rainy day. If it does verify, it looks like Sunday will be dry, with temperatures, even after the rain's all said and done, still managing to stay above average by some 10 to 15 degrees.
Jonathan, this is just incredible. You know, I'm not necessarily mad at these temperatures, but for late November, I think a crisper fall feeling would be nice. You know, it's Thanksgiving here soon.
Well, consider where we were this time last week. We were trying to dig our way out the 20s.
Incredible. Yes.
So we have definitely just flipped the script, or just thrown the script out. Who knows what Mother Nature is going to do? I know everyone wants the weather to shore up, and you want it to be a bit cooler, but not exactly downright cold. But you definitely don't want problems in the way of storms or winter weather for the holiday period. So we're already starting to get some signals that we could probably get some wet weather in earlier in the week to come rather than later in the week to come as we near Thursday and Friday.
Good to know. Jonathan, thank you so much as always. Always a pleasure. Okay, guys, I want to move on and get an update as to where SNAP benefits are at for Georgians. We know that the hunger crisis is deepening in Atlanta because a lot of SNAP recipients here in Georgia have received partial to no payments after the shutdown, leaving a lot of families struggling to buy food. The Georgia Department of Human Services says SNAP recipients should receive their full November benefits either Tuesday, or which would be today, or on their regularly scheduled date. Now, some people have received only partial payments and others have not received anything at all. Curious where you're at. If you're streaming along, you can let us know on our YouTube page where we're streaming live right now. But this has created an ongoing strain for families who rely on SNAP. Food pantries, of course, say they are still facing heavy demand as this crisis continues. So we'll keep you updated if there are any further updates from state leaders. But speaking of affordability, I do want to let you know what the White House is doing to try to make this a priority, because President Trump says he's fighting to make life more affordable for Americans, particularly small businesses. Overhauling health care could be next. The president says he's doubling down on his efforts to make America affordable again. One of the ways the White House is trying to do that is revamping the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. According to data from the Kaiser Family Foundation, the average family's premiums topped $26,000 this year for firms with less than 200 people. That's up nearly $17,000 from 2020, so 5 years ago. The administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Oz, says small businesses who may not have the funds to afford commercial insurance plans should have more power to choose Affordable Care Act programs. A bill known as the Choice Arrangement Act is also making its way through Congress, and it would increase coverage options and lower health insurance costs for small businesses. But the recent government shutdown isn't boosting confidence, because lawmakers would need to pass major health care reform for this to happen. We know Republicans tried repealing Obamacare during President Trump's first term, but were ultimately unsuccessful. So we'll continue to keep you updated as lawmakers debate health insurance premiums and what to do there. Finally here, as we continue our discussions on affordability and what leaders are doing, as the Supreme Court weighs whether to uphold the Trump administration's tariffs, the president is teasing rebate checks from the collected revenue, something we've talked about, but let's give you some context on the hurdles that this would have to pass through before it could happen. The White House says it wants Americans to be assured the U.S. economy is top of mind. President Trump says one idea still under review is sending out $2,000 rebate checks to lower and middle income Americans. Officials say this idea is still definitely a work in progress. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that they would need legislation for this to happen. And some lawmakers are skeptical of the idea, saying that they want to make life more affordable for Americans, not passing out rebate checks that are a one-time hit. The White House says payments may come in several forms, including additional tax cuts instead of an actual rebate check, but don't expect any of that anytime soon. The president says this would not happen until next year at the earliest, and the money sitting in government coffers may not be there long because the Supreme Court is deciding whether President Trump overreached in his authority to issue these sweeping tariffs without congressional approval. If the court rules against the White House, the government may be forced to return billions of dollars in collected revenue. So major updates there that we'll continue to keep you updated on. In the meantime, bringing you back a little closer to home, I want to check in on a story that we've been following because we know Stockbridge police have identified a suspect in a woman's murder. Our Tyler Fingert has been following up on this. And Tyler, we're learning, of course, as we've been following this story, that this woman's son is actually suspected in her stabbing death. What new information have you learned as you've been following up today? So, Tyler, right now we can't hear you. I do see your shot going in, and I know that you're showing us stuff. So while you continue to talk real quick, maybe just check and make sure that your mic is on and things are good to go. Let's see. I'm going to look over here at some of our equipment and just make sure that we are good. I think we're probably going to have to check in with you in just a little bit, Tyler, because I can't hear you right now, but I do see where you're at and I see what you're working on. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to come back in just a little bit and we're going to check in with Tyler coming up here next. Welcome back. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming along here with us. We were just checking in with our Tyler Fingert about a story in Stockbridge that I'm going to get you updated on right now. Tyler's going to go get some interviews as he continues to news gather on this story. But we know that Stockbridge police have identified a man as a suspect in his mother's murder. Police responded to a call of a suspicious person at a home on Club Drive last night. And police say that's where they found a man in the front yard who told them his mother was dead inside the home. Officers found 75-year-old Diana Cleveland inside. She reportedly suffering from stab wounds. Police then took Desmond Riley into custody. And I'd like to let you listen in to Major Ron Moman from Stockbridge Police, who talks a little bit about what happened.
The male revealed to the officer that his mother was deceased inside the residence. Officers made an entry inside the residence and discovered a 75-year-old female deceased with apparent stab wounds. This is still under investigation. We don't know all the motive and things of that nature, but yes, this is unusual, to have a son, that's been charged with murder of his mother.
It's just sad to see that
we'll move on from this to
your own family member can turn against you and cause chaos. You never know what they're going through, so it's best to always check on your family members and always check on your people and make sure everything's going all right, going okay with them.
So we'll continue to keep you updated as police follow up on this story in Stockbridge. Again, we know that this man is accused in his mother's stabbing death, so we'll keep you updated there. In the meantime, you guys, I do want to move on because we have some other stories to get to. And one of them actually involves a study from Morehouse College that looks at how low-income Georgia women can get free cancer screenings, but many don't. So I'd like to bring in Health Beat reporter Rebecca Grapevine. Rebecca, it is great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us live to talk about your work. You've recently put together this piece. Can you tell me a little bit about this story that you worked on and what you found as you were doing your reporting?
Yes, thanks so much for having me on. The first thing I found out is that Georgia and many other states have a breast and cervical cancer screening program for low-income women. I didn't know that, and so I'm guessing a lot of other people don't know that as well. And this is a program where women can call their local health department and sign up to get a mammogram or cervical cancer screening so that they're getting that same important health check that folks with good insurance are getting. That's the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned is that a lot of women aren't necessarily using these screenings, and these Morehouse School of Medicine researchers want to look into that and find out why that might be.
So, Rebecca, this is really interesting, right? Because like you said, I think a lot of people aren't aware that these things are available to them. What do you feel like from what this study is looking at, what you were doing in some of your reporting, what do you feel like some of those biggest barriers or obstacles could be to why women aren't taking advantage of these cancer screenings?
Yes, that's a great question. And I talked to the Morehouse School of Medicine researchers. Why might this be? There could be logistical reasons. These are low-income women. Many of them are probably working hourly jobs. They may have caregiving responsibilities for parents or for children. And so it could be hard for them to take time off. Here in Atlanta, as well as in rural areas, transportation could be a barrier as well. And many people, like myself, may not know about the program, so that's obviously a barrier. There could be psychological reasons as well. I thought this part was interesting. Women may not want to get the screening because they're afraid that they'll find out that maybe they do have breast cancer or a cervical lesion. And especially if they're low-income women with few resources, they may be thinking, gosh, even if I do have the cancer, how am I going to get treated for it? So there's a whole host of reasons that could be on the table, and these researchers want to find out more about what women are actually thinking.
Because at the end of the day, a lot of money is going to make these screenings affordable and accessible and available to women. So it makes sense that they'd want them to go to good use. For those who are unfamiliar, who is offering these free cancer screenings? Who's funding this?
Yes. So here in Georgia, you can just call your local health department. Most of them would also have a website up that explains a little bit more about the program, who's eligible, and you can schedule these. And I have heard, a nurse who works on this program at the Fulton County Health Department told me that she wants, every woman in Georgia to know about this service so that if they don't have that insurance or the funds for a mammogram, that they can get their annual mammogram. About how the program is funded, that's also really interesting. The funding it's jointly funded by the federal government and the state government. And the funding from the federal government is actually passed through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention right here in Atlanta. And a lot of folks may not realize that the CDC funds a lot of these programs across the country at state and local health departments, this being one example. And then the state kicks in some money as well every year. The budget for the program annually is about $8.5 million when you put all that together.
Incredible. Rebecca, I was just looking through the notes, right? And I was trying to get an understanding too, because for one thing, if someone's streaming along and they want to understand how they can access that, you summed it up so well. You can call your local health department. You can kind of find those resources in that way. I'm also just looking through these notes and trying to understand too. It looked specifically at Black women and Latina women. Were there any discrepancies between these two groups and how they accessed these free cancer screenings?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I got some data from the state about who is actually using these screenings. And it's not quite proportional to our racial makeup in the state. About 62% of women who are using them are white and 26% are Black. So that's one discrepancy. Another discrepancy that surprised me is that Black women who are diagnosed with breast cancer tend to have worse survival rates. And that could be for a lot of reasons. It could be that they are getting care later in the process, so their survival chances are lower. It could be that they're not getting the same quality of care. One researcher I spoke to said there is, a legacy of historical racism, and that could impact the kind of care that Black women get. And so that interest in looking at Black and Latino women and making sure that they're getting these services in particular to try to address those discrepancies is one of the motivating factors for the Morehouse School of Medicine researchers in targeting these women. But they made the point that, a rising tide lifts all boats. So if we can learn more about why these particularly vulnerable women aren't using this service, maybe that could improve the service for everyone across the state.
Rebecca, fabulous point. I think it's so important that part of, lifting up our community is that outreach and making sure that people are available or know what is available to them, especially since, there's a lot of money that's spent on this, and you want to make sure that people are taking advantage, because at the end of the day, that is ultimately going to lead to better health outcomes in our communities. And, I think it's just interesting that there are these resources, and then understanding why people may or may not be able to take advantage is so important. So, any final thoughts about your work, this study at Morehouse, things that you found surprising or you think that people should know about?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll continue to track this study. We won't have results for a while, but would love to talk about it again. The most important thing that people should know is not only is the screening service available, but if you are, unfortunately diagnosed with some form of cancer, breast or cervical cancer through it, there are resources to help you with treatment as well. So don't let the fact that you're worried about resources hold you back from taking advantage. There are resources available out there.
Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on, discussing this. I think it affects a lot of women in our community, and hopefully someone found this useful and can now take advantage of this or do a little bit more digging to try to find answers. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming on and joining the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Rebecca Grapevine, Atlanta-based healthcare reporter for HealthBeat. So that was great to discuss. As we move on here, I want to continue to keep you updated on stories we're following here in the Fox 5 newsroom. One of them involves an update on a story in Charlotte. We were discussing this yesterday, how the Border Patrol agents in Charlotte have launched a new operation. Immigration enforcement efforts have moved to a new American city. And we know that dozens of arrests happened over the weekend in North Carolina. Carolina. One of the things that the Trump administration is shifting to is going to different U.S. cities, this time most recently Charlotte, to enforce immigration laws. The Border Patrol agents conducted 200 arrests so far in a campaign dubbed Operation Charlotte's Web. Department of Homeland Security says it's a dangerous operation. They shared a video of a vehicle that allegedly tried to ram into Border Patrol agents over the weekend. Many Charlotte residents say, though, that Border Patrol agents' tactics are excessive and accuse the officers of racially profiling. One man, a Honduran-born U.S. citizen, says agents smashed his windows and pulled him from his car, though DHS says he was acting erratically and ignored officers' instructions. While DHS says it's targeting violent criminals, local officials point out that crime has been on the decline in recent years there in Charlotte. Hundreds gathered Saturday to protest. We were just looking at some of that video, and they say immigrants have become afraid to leave their homes. North Carolina's governor is urging residents to stay peaceful in encounters with immigration officers. So we're going to continue to keep you updated on this. In the meantime, I want to let you know about what's happening with the situation unfolding with Venezuela, because if you've been streaming along here with us, you know we've been talking about how the U.S. military has been ramping up its pressure on Venezuela to stop drug trafficking. Well, now President Donald Trump says he's considering holding talks with the country's authoritarian leader, Nicolas Maduro. Venezuelan president invoked the words of John Lennon, singing peace, to try to lower tensions with the United States. President Trump says there may be some discussion, and we're going to see how that turns out. This potential bid for diplomacy comes after the U.S. military destroyed another alleged drug boat over the weekend, bringing the total to 21 strikes. And now its most advanced aircraft carrier is on standby in the Caribbean Sea, along with 15,000 troops as a part of Operation Southern Spear. And another show of force, the U.S. military is conducting joint military exercises with Trinidad and Tobago this week, just off the coast of Venezuela. The State Department recently designated another cartel as a foreign terrorist organization, one that Washington claims Maduro is running himself. So some lawmakers here in the United States do think the president is being overly forceful, and they don't want to be dragged into a conflict with Venezuela. President Trump has said he's made up his mind on whether to take military action inside of Venezuela, or rather he hasn't yet decided on whether to do that, but he's not sharing those details publicly. He says he's going to keep Congress involved on his decision. Coming up, guys, we're going to get a check on a story I want to let you know a little bit more about, and that is how those in the skilled trades are stepping up to be construction ready. Our Chris Rosenthal is going to show us how, coming up next. welcome back. I'm Ariel Onstad, and it is great to see you here streaming along with us. You've probably heard a lot about how there's a great need for more skilled workers in the construction and trades industry. And our Chris Rosenthal is actually out taking a look at a workforce training and hiring fair. So, Chris, great to see you. Tell me a little bit more about what Construction Ready is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. This is about their 50th class, actually, that they've had over the past 10 years. It's about 30 students who've been training for the past month or so, getting some entry-level certifications and training, OSHA, various other entry-level preparatory construction training preparations. And these are for the skilled trades. As we know, as we hear a lot, skilled trades, there's a shortage of workers. This can be anything from welding, mechanical, electrical, and with so much construction going on, and in particular nearby the Centennial Yards going on, which many of these students may get jobs for. It's important to get them ready, and that's why they're having a career fair today to cap off this month-long course, where many of these students behind me are have had the chance to meet with various employers to potentially get job offers. And one of those employers here, this is Justin Cook. He is with Paulson Cheek Mechanical. And tell me, coming out here today, talk to me about the shortage in skilled labor.
All right. Well, I don't have to. Okay. So the shortage is it's a pretty big labor shortage. They're saying studies are showing about 600,000 jobs we need between electricians, plumbers, HVAC, project managers, and things of that nature. And this program here, it gives a lot of the students an opportunity to get some entry-level certifications and then give them a bigger or advantage to get in a company like mine and other mechanical and construction companies across Atlanta and the country.
And these students, they come in, they have a little bit of training, but these are entry positions. But what makes them stand out? What can make someone stand out?
I would say it's all about how you carry yourself. My company, we like to bring on entry-level talent, and what stands out to me is being humble, hungry, and how they present themselves. So it's certain stuff that we can teach as a company. We're going to build up our employees, but if you come with a certain attitude and presentation, we'll take it from there.
What's the biggest barrier? Is it getting the training? Is it just getting your foot in the door?
I would say it's training plus knowledge of where to go once you get the training. But Construction Ready, which is one of our partners, does a great job of putting the employer with the student.
And what is the need out there? What kind of jobs are we talking? Are these good paying jobs, good paying industries?
Most definitely, they're great paying industries, and we're talking about welders. We have a prefab shop, so we're talking about welders. We're talking about plumbers, HVAC project managers, mechanical project managers, and superintendents.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's Justin Cook. He's with Paulson Cheek Mechanical. Just one of the about 17 or so different companies that come out here to talk and meet with these students, look over their resumes, and some of them are walking out of here today with potential jobs.
Awesome. Chris, this is great to see. Love to see all the smiling faces, and of course to see that people are getting connected to careers in the trades and things that they're passionate about to help fill this labor shortage. So thanks so much for bringing this to our attention. Okay, guys, I want to move on because I do have breaking news to let you know about. The U.S. House just voted to overwhelmingly force the release of the Epstein files, sending this bill now to the Senate. So we know that this bill, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, has passed. You're taking a live look at the House floor after representatives just voted, and now they've moved on to other House resolutions. But we know that both President Trump and House Speaker Mike Johnson were cautious in this vote in the beginning. The House Speaker actually, before the vote was taken, was talking about how he felt this wasn't the right way to go about releasing the Epstein files. But as you can see right now, the vote has passed, and that really didn't matter in the long run. So we'll continue to keep you updated as that bill now moves to the Senate and what that looks like, especially as it reaches President Donald Trump's desk. As we know, the president has reversed his opinion opinion here in recent days about whether or not that the files should be released to the American public. So we'll continue to keep you updated right here on Fox Local. In the meantime, the news is going to continue at 3 o'clock. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming. We'll see you right here.
Good afternoon. The news continues here on Fox Local in the 3 p.m. hour. I'm Tom Haines streaming with you. I'm live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom where there's a lot going on today. I want to take you live now to Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Live pictures there where there is a flurry of activity this afternoon. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia meeting with President Trump in the Oval Office just moments ago. But perhaps the biggest news just breaking within the past few minutes is that there's a big vote on Capitol Hill happening right now in the House of Representatives, which just voted overwhelmingly to pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act. That means the House of Representatives is going to order the Justice Department to release all things relevant to the Jeffrey Epstein case. And that will now go over to the United States Senate. This is a culmination of a months-long effort that has overcome opposition from President Donald Trump himself and Republican leadership. The president now, though, embracing the idea, encouraging the release, even saying that he's going to sign it if it indeed passes the Senate, which undoubtedly it will. His blessing all but ensures that the House passed that vote today by an overwhelming margin, as we mentioned, putting further pressure on the Senate to do the same. Joining us now here on set is Deidre Dukes, who's been following the actions of Georgia Congresswoman Deidre Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's found herself in the headlines recently, not only over coming at odds with President Trump on a whole range of issues, but for being one of the major proponents behind getting the Epstein files files released.
And you have to believe this afternoon that there's real satisfaction to how this vote went for her. We've been monitoring this all day in the newsroom. And again, this vote coming in just moments ago, passing overwhelmingly 427-1 in favor of passing this legislation for the DOJ to release these Epstein files. And of course, this now goes to the Senate. There's still a lot of question there as to whether the Senate will in fact take this up. But if it does go to the Senate, and as you said, Tom, if it does pass, just within recent days, President Trump has said that he would sign this bill into law. Now, as for Congresswoman Green, now she did hold a news conference today. She she did hold that news conference along with some of the Epstein victims and also some other members of Congress ahead of today's vote. And she also took that opportunity to talk about the concerns that she has had in regards to the Epstein files, why she has pushed for these files to be released. And she also talked about the disagreement that she's had and the back and forth she's had with President Trump here just recently, even on social media on the president's part in regards to her pushing for the release of these files. He has called her, in many respects, a traitor, and he has pulled back his endorsement of her. But here's what she had to say when it comes to the Epstein victims and why they deserve their day and why they deserve to have all this information released to the public.
These women have fought the most horrific fight that no woman should have to fight, and they did it by banding together and never giving up. And that's what we did by fighting so hard against the most powerful people in the world, even the President of the United States, in order to make this vote happen today. I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me. And I want to tell you that this only became possible today because the American people, whom we serve as representatives here in Congress, demanded that this vote happen, and they put more pressure on every single elected politician in this city than has ever been put on them. And today you are going to see probably a unanimous vote in the House to release the Epstein files. But the real fight will happen after that.
And again, we did see a near unanimous vote just moments ago. And real briefly, Tom, just some of the debates that we heard on the floor, most being in favor of the release of the files, saying that with the vote, they'll see a regaining of trust of the American people, others calling it a commitment to transparency and justice. But we also did hear from some Republican lawmakers who said they had problems with the wording of the bill, also some who criticized their Democratic colleagues for the release of some of those emails. From the Epstein emails earlier in the week, saying that with the release of those files, it was made to appear that President Trump had engaged in some wrongdoing, which was in fact not the case with those emails that were released.
As for Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's so strange seeing this unfold. She was once a very close political ally of President Trump. He urged her not to run for the Senate seat that Jon Ossoff will defend coming up here next November. But just looking at her in that news conference, she seems to have some political wind in her sails now, especially since this bill has passed so almost unanimously through the House of Representatives.
Right, and she said that she was fighting for the American people's right to know what's in the files and fighting for the victims of Epstein, saying that this really isn't a Republican or a Democratic issue. She's saying she's doing as she's always done, putting the people first.
Well, you'll have to wonder, or one will wonder, I should say, what Marjorie Taylor Greene will do with this newfound political capital coming out of this vote today. Deidre, thanks. As we take the House floor again, the breaking news at this hour is that the House has voted overwhelmingly to order the Justice Department to release the contents of the Jeffrey Epstein files, called the Epstein Files Transparency Act, will now move over to the United States Senate, and President Trump has promised his signature on that bill. Be interesting to see what we learn in the coming days and weeks. Let's talk about the political ramifications of this vote today and releasing those files. Professor Alan Sanders, an attorney and professor emeritus of political science at St. Peter's University in New Jersey. First, Professor, your reaction to the breaking news that the House has overwhelmingly passed this measure.
Well, not surprising. There was going to be a majority to pass this resolution before Mr. Trump changed his position. But after Trump, changed his position, then all of the loyalists decided that it would make sense to move on and vote for that. So this now is going to go to the Senate. We'll see what the Senate does. The Senate is known for delaying tactics. So we'll have to see if the Senate plays those games or if it passes this resolution swiftly.
You know, Professor, a lot of the focus has been on the president's name being mentioned in some of those emails. And every time he gets asked about it, he seems pretty agitated, calling it a hoax and boring and what have you. You know, releasing these files for the Democrats could also have some political ramifications. I mean, there's names all over the place in these files.
Sure. Look, Mr. Epstein was part of an elite club of Republicans and Democrats. And so Mr. Trump was part of that club. Some Democrats were part of that club. So, yes, it could be embarrassing. It's already proved embarrassing to the former Harvard president, Mr. Summers. So other people might be embarrassed as well. But look, the reality is that these votes that we've just covered here in the House and whatever happens in the Senate are really a sideshow. Mr. Trump could release the files right now. It doesn't need a vote of the Congress at all. So the fact that we're having these votes really indicates that the president is still indicating in delaying this for whatever reasons. And he speaks of transparency. He speaks that he wants the American people to know what's going on there, that he campaign on that. But yet he still engages in these tactics that result in delaying what he could order right now.
That's been the confounding part of all this. The president has maintained that he called Jeffrey Epstein a loser and a creep. He kicked him out of his golf club. The emails have no sort of backbone behind them, given that Ghislaine Maxwell didn't back any of them up. The victim in all this, the woman who committed suicide, said that Trump really wasn't involved. So my question has been all along, why not just release the files?
Well, that's right. But look, certainly the files talk about or illustrate or talk about or mention horrific crimes were involved here. But, these folks talk to each other. We see this from the emails that have already been released. They talk to each other about other kinds of matters, not just the sexual predatory practices of Mr. Epstein. So it's very possible that there may be conversations that are embarrassing that have nothing to do with the heart of this scandal. And Mr. Trump may want to squash those. He may have talked about things, or there may be references to things that he doesn't want the world to know that have nothing to do with the sex scandals. Certainly, we know that Mr. Epstein had worldwide contacts, not just national contacts. And so it's very possible that Mr. Epstein, for instance, and I'm just speculating here, had contacts with Mr. Putin. And it's possible that conversations or dialogues or emails or texts with Mr. Putin might be things that Mr. Trump doesn't want revealed. Again, that's pure speculation, but it's clear that what is in those files goes beyond the sex trafficking accusations and allegations and crimes that have already been unearthed.
It's an interesting observation. We saw what happened to Prince Andrew basically all but excommunicated from the royal family, stripping him of his title. Do you foresee any prominent figures here in the United States, luminaries, if you will, suffering the same fate? In other words, just going down in disgrace? We saw what happened to Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard University. Do you expect any other big names to be revealed here?
Well, we already know of some big names. Mr. Clinton, President Clinton has been mentioned, although there's been nothing so far released about President Clinton that suggests any wrongdoing whatsoever or any compromising matters at all. So we already seen some prominent names, and we'll see. Now, what's really interesting is that let's not forget that the Justice Department, Pam Bondi's Justice Department, originally said there's nothing to pursue, further in investigations in these files. So it may be that there is nothing, or it may be that there are things there. But whatever the things are that are contained in those files, some people may consider them embarrassing. They may not be incriminating, but they may just be simply embarrassing. Look, just hanging out with Mr. Epstein, we know what kind of person he now was as a result of all the revelations. So just hanging around him may be embarrassing to some people. They don't want people to know that they were part of this group of people.
Mm-hmm. Professor, I'm very interested in your thoughts on this sort of intramural fighting within the Republican Party, the MAGA wing, the more traditional, what the president is calling now rhino Republicans. There seems to be some squabbling going on here. We saw our own Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out to the podium with some heft and confidence behind her. She's chosen to square off with the president. The Wall Street Journal reported today that the president may be losing some of his muscle within his own party. Do you buy that? And where do you see this going?
Oh, I think it's very possible. Look, President Trump is a lame duck president, and the polls right now don't look very good for Republicans going into the next election. So it's not unusual for members of his party to try and separate themselves from him. They've already separated themselves from him initially on the Epstein files, and now Marjorie Taylor Greene has also indicated that she doesn't like his policies on health care because she believes that the premiums will go up dramatically for people who are on Obamacare, and she believes that that is certainly a broken promise to the people who voted for Mr. Trump, who believe that he would lower prices across the board, not just on health care. So we've got a lame duck president whose promises still remain to be fulfilled on many questions, and we've got Congress people who are running for election next year. So it's not surprising that you're starting to see cracks.
I'll ask you the same question I asked our Deidre Dukes not too long ago. You know, we know President Trump asked Marjorie Taylor Greene not to run for the United States Senate seat that is going to be open here next year. Is she, there has to be sort of something else going on here. There always is with politicians. What do you think her agenda is, coming out and choosing to stand on this elevated platform? What are her plans?
Well, I think her plans are to remain in Congress right now and to use that as a platform for higher power or higher office. If she succeeds in getting reelected, regardless of Mr. Trump's wishes, then she proves that she has strong backing from her constituency and that she can use that backing to achieve greater power in the House and to maneuver for higher office. Look, she is a person who is ambitious, and she is looking at all the cards that she has to play and choosing among the ones that she thinks will be more successful for her.
Is this a repairable relationship? We've seen President Trump in the past become friends again with people who he wasn't so close to before, especially in politics when he ran for president the first time. One of those people is probably the closest of all of those to the president, and that is Marco Rubio. Do you see a reunion of sorts between Marjorie Taylor Greene and President Trump?
Everything is always possible. Look, you've just seen the biggest 180-degree turn of President Trump when he first tried to squash the release of the Epstein files and then said, now I want to vote in the House of Representatives that furthers their release. So everything is possible, and politicians are very good in explaining to you that that was then and this is now. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was a reconciliation.
All right. Professor Alan Sanders, attorney, professor emeritus, political science, St. Peter's University in New Jersey, reacting to the breaking breaking news of the House of Representatives almost unanimously passing the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files, ordering the Justice Department to do just that. Professor, we appreciate your time this afternoon.
My pleasure. Anytime. Take care.
All right. You as well. Turning to a big local story we're following right now in Fulton County, programs for veterans apparently well underfunded to the tune of upwards of $1 million. But why, when the care of our veterans is of such prominence and importance? Angelique Proctor standing by now with details. Angelique?
Good afternoon to you, Tom. There are actually 50,000 veterans in Fulton County, and we just had a news conference with 3 Fulton County commissioners who say that we cannot fail those veterans in this county. And in fact, they went on to say the veterans should be a top priority in Fulton County. Now, for the last 3 years, veterans have gotten $1 million, as you mentioned, for things like housing, mental illness, and employment searches. We actually caught up with Commissioner Mo Ivory at a program for veterans last week at the Sadie G. Mays Health and Rehabilitation Center. She talked then about this year, 2025, and the fact that that $1 million has been cut. Now, Commissioner Marvin Arrington Jr. has sponsored legislation that directs the county manager to put that money back in Fulton County's budget. Commissioners Mo Ivory and Dana Barrett agree, but the commissioners say their colleagues have voted the measure down 5 times despite having a $69 million surplus. Take a listen.
We want to let our veterans know that they are a priority. And so we have introduced a resolution to ask the county manager, or to direct the county manager and his team to set aside up to $1 million for veterans. We just celebrated Veterans Day last week, and it's important that we let our veterans know that they are a priority.
Earlier this year, as was said during our mid-year financial update, we learned that Fulton County was operating with a $69 million surplus. And as soon as I heard that number, my first thought was very simple. We finally have the opportunity to restore the $1 million that had been stripped from the Veterans Community Services Grant. I pushed hard to bring that funding back this year because that $1 million is not just a line in the budget. It is housing. It is mental health support. It is job placement. It is case management. It is the work that local organizations do every single day to lift up the women and the men who have served this country.
Now, as you can imagine, several veterans stood with the commissioners this afternoon. Reverend Ellison McGee actually served in Vietnam in 1967. He says he wants the money back in the budget.
In 2022, Fulton County constructed this energy, and since then they've given out $3 million to veteran programs, actually helping over 4,700 veterans in Fulton County. Then they whacked the budget, they cut the money. That didn't solve the need. It overlooked the sacrifice. And you got to understand one thing. If it wasn't for the veteran services in this country, you would not be the free nation you are today.
And no doubt you're wondering why. Well, I've been reaching out to all of the commissioners who have voted no. I finally have a response from Commissioner Khadija Abdul-Rahman, and I'm going to read it. It's pretty detailed, but it says this: I want to speak directly to our veterans, their families, and the taxpayers of Fulton County about funding the veteran services. Let me be clear. We value our veterans, and I am personally dedicated to making sure they receive the support that they have earned. The root of this discussion is the upcoming unavoidable end of federal ARPA funds. For several years, Fulton County was grateful to use these one-time grants to support vital programs, including those at the Veterans Empowerment Organization. However, this was federal money used temporarily. not ongoing county tax dollars. Its expiration is not a cut by this Board of Commissioners, but the conclusion of a one-time program that was known from the beginning. Our county's permanent general funds support the veteran services. That remains steady and strong. So that is what we're hearing from Commissioner Abdul Rahman. But Commissioner Mo Ivory talked about this $69 million in surplus that the county has every year. She and Commissioner Arrington and Commissioner Barrett would like to see $1 million of those dollars go to the veterans. This is on the agenda for tomorrow. We will be here and watch what happens.
This is a story, Angelique, that needs to be told. We're so happy you're on it this afternoon because, as we all know, Veterans Affairs issues can get seemingly and oftentimes lost in the shuffle. And so the fact that they have this funding in the wings and ready to go, is there any timeline as to how quickly this process might unfold to get those veterans the money that they need and deserve?
Well, it's got to start with tomorrow's vote. The money, they're talking about putting it in the 2026 budget because it was not in the 2025 budget. And how soon that would happen, I would think that would start with the fiscal year 2026. But a lot of people will be here tomorrow, and a lot of people are watching this issue.
Rightly so. Angelique Proctor, live for us this afternoon in Fulton County. Angelique, thanks. Well, do you keep track of your credit score? Sometimes you get those emails like, oh, you have a new credit score. It's something you should do for a very, very important reason, and more than you may think. We're going to have a live guest to talk about it as we continue here in the 3 p.m. streaming hour of Fox Local. We're back. Hey, Brittany, Tom, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. So glad you're streaming with us this afternoon. I'm Tom Haines, live here in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom, whether you're watching us on our streaming app, Fox Local on your home TV or on your mobile device. We're certainly glad you're here. Or if you're watching us on our YouTube channel at Fox 5 Atlanta, we are happy you're joining us this afternoon. Encourage you to post your comments here. Or if you're on the radio, 107.9 HD2 FM, we are certainly glad you are here. We want to talk about your credit and money at the end of the day and how important it is. Credit scores are something that we see all the time. We really don't know a whole lot about them, who uses them, how they're impacted, but they're important. Everything from your loan rates to being able to get a loan to your auto insurance. We know how important credit scores are. So joining us now is Dr. Brittany Green. An expert on credit scores. She's the head of community at Self Financial, a credit building platform. Brittany, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Do we have Brittany Green? I don't think so. All right, we're going to work out a technical glitch with Brittany and get back to her in just a second. Speaking of money, I want to take you live now to the corner of Wall and Broad in downtown New York, and the New York Stock Exchange, which, boy, has taken it on the chin for the past 3 days now. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down over 400 points this afternoon, again today, joining a global sell-off stretching from Asia all the way to Europe. Nvidia, Bitcoin, other Wall Street stars keep falling on worries that their prices shot way too high. Nvidia sitting at just over about $180 a share. Some say that's a great time to get in. The S&P 500 index dropping 1%, pulling further away from its all-time high set back last month. The Dow, again, down over 400 points this afternoon. Nvidia, the heaviest weight on the markets, it dropping over 3%. It's going to report earnings later this week, and a lot of investors are going to be listening very closely as to where Nvidia comes out in terms of its earnings. Bitcoin briefly falling below 90,000 overnight as investors sell once high-flying assets like cryptocurrencies and artificial intelligence stocks. Bitcoin falling to around 89,500 earlier today. Its first drop, just to put this in perspective, below 90,000 since April. So if you're a Bitcoin enthusiast, this is something you're watching as well. Bitcoin went all the way up to 125,000. So for it to be around 89,500 today is pretty spectacular. So we're watching the markets this afternoon. The stock market closing in about 31 minutes from now. When we come back, we're going to talk about your credit, again, with our credit expert, to see if we're doing everything right that we need to be doing to ensure we have great credit, not to get into too much credit trouble, and the steps we can take if we have bad credit to improve it. We'll be back. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm Tom Haines, your host, live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. Sure appreciate you streaming with us this afternoon. We've covered a lot of ground today, a lot of breaking news happening, all of which we have brought to you live today. We want to talk about something that is very important to you personally, and that is your credit score. It's a barometer of sorts of where you are financially, especially to credit bureaus who want to find out a little bit more about you, your spending habits, your ability to pay back borrowed money. Joining us now, Dr. Brittany Green, head of community at Self Financial, a credit building platform. Brittany, thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. First of all, why are you in this particular line of finance in terms of people's credit scores?
Hey, and thank you so much for having me today. I entered this field because I was looking to get a job back in 2017, and I was denied because of my credit score. And I became extremely passionate about this because I didn't learn about it growing up, didn't learn about it in school either, and it just became a passion to educate. And I joined forces with Self to, share this wonderful message about credit building and how it could actually change people's life for the better.
I talked earlier about when we were sort of teasing the fact that you were coming up. Sometimes we get those emails, hey, your credit score changed, and we kind of blow them off, delete them, and move on. But credit scores are super important. They dictate really what things like our interest rate will be if we want to take a line of credit, if we want to go out and buy a car, if we want to get auto insurance, and as you just mentioned, simply getting a job. It really sort of encapsulates what kind of person you are. How does it do that?
Honestly, we could get into that, but I think what's most important to note is maybe what people should avoid during these things, during this time, is if we're, just kind of giving a brief interlude, it speaks to the person about passion and love for other people and wanting them to be great. So I'm here to, get excited about talking to them about what they should avoid, and you'll see that passion emulate there for sure.
Well, you can talk about passion, but credit scores are a pretty clear issue for people. Yeah. And we're here today to talk about how to improve one's credit score, how to stay out of trouble, and what to do if you see some kind of error on your credit ledger. Could you run through a couple of those for me?
Absolutely. And especially going into the new year, a lot of folks are getting ready to set financial goals for themselves. And of course, credit is going to be critical. So I actually want to talk about 6 moves that they can avoid if they're trying to get their credit on track and keep it strong for the new year, whether that's to buy a car, a home, or even get a job in some cases. So one of the first things that we can avoid doing, especially during the holiday season, is late or missed payments. Your payment history is about 35% of your actual FICO score. And if you get one of those, it can linger on your credit for up to 7 years. The second thing I want to talk about is maxing out their credit cards. The utilization is about 35% of one's FICO score, which is the second biggest factor outside of payment history. And if your utilization is higher than 30%, that can not only lower your score, but it can also reduce that flexibility that you could have during emergencies, right? The third thing that I would say is closing out those old accounts too soon. I don't think we realize how much of a factor that the length of having accounts open really has for our FICO score. So if you're closing out those accounts too soon, just because maybe you're not using it, or it's just an account that you've had for a while, it can actually shorten your credit history, which can in turn lower your credit score.
Yeah,
I think the fourth thing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
go ahead. So sorry. What is the fourth thing?
Yeah, ignoring those errors. I heard you bring it up earlier, and I think that is one of the major things is because mistakes without correction doesn't necessarily fix itself. So if it's showing long-term damage, if it's left unaddressed, you want to make sure that you're reaching out to the credit bureaus or lenders to focus on correcting it. So I know you brought that up earlier. The last two is just applying for too many accounts at one time. That tends to look risky to lenders. And then lastly, something that people don't necessarily think about is payday loans. Those come with extremely high fees, and if left unpaid, can end up on your credit report. So those are some things I would say to avoid during this time.
How tough is it to get in touch with like an Equifax or a TransUnion and say, hey, something that you have on my credit report isn't correct? That seems like a daunting thing for somebody to do. They have to jump through multiple hoops, multiple layers. Any tips or advice on how to correct something that's falsely reported?
Yeah, reaching out to them via phone. Of course, you can do a quick Google search to find out the credit bureau's information. Reach out, give them a call. Of course, you can send letters to them via mail. I think that's important to know that you have more than one option than just calling. You can also send something to the mail. Of course, get like tracked shipping. That way, you can keep on, keep within alignment when they respond.
Well, I don't know about you, but I get hundreds of those like credit card offers in the mail. We don't want to get into too much debt. As you said, fast and easy money can be detrimental to your credit score, and to just pay attention and keep up with it. Such great tips for us this afternoon. Dr. Brittany Green, appreciate you being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Have a great afternoon. Well, a Sonoy father is under arrest this afternoon for online crimes that included child sexual abuse material. This was a huge collaborative effort between the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and local law enforcement. Doug Evans is live for us in Coweta. Doug, are you in Sonoy tracking this investigation and this suspect who's accused of some pretty grotesque crimes?
Yeah, pretty disturbing stuff, Tom. I'm here at the sheriff's office in Noonan in Coweta County. Steve Hoover, 40 years old. We're told that he is married, has 2 children. He's in big trouble, Tom. Let's show some video, this body cam video of his arrest at his home. He's wearing a t-shirt that says, "When the time comes, there will not be enough people to bury the dead." Some biblical references there, a modern day apocalyptic theme as well. This is a guy who spent some time here in the jail, has now bonded out, charged with 2 counts of child sexual exploitation. This case comes from a tip to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Came into the Coweta County Sheriff's Office, we're told, last July. It takes that long to get subpoenas to investigate these things. They start looking at a person's online activity. Again, that takes subpoenas as well. And so his arrest coming in October, and they raided his house, arrested him there in front of his family. They have seized all of his electronic devices, and they tell me that they'll be combing through those devices to see what's on there. And if they find any more, Tom, they tell me that they'll file additional charges. Steve Hoover, again, facing 2 counts of child sexual exploitation for possession of what they call child sexual abuse material. Used to be called child porn. They now call it child sexual abuse material. I talked to Sheriff Lynn Wood just a short time ago about these cases and about how they investigate them very seriously here in Coweta County.
Our investigator is great at what she does, and I don't know how she even does it. Crimes against children is bad enough just in person, but the internet has become such a vast way for these predators, and that's what I call them, to attack our children. And in Coweta County, we're not going to put up with it.
These women have fought the most.
So that's Sheriff Lynn Wood. They're talking about this case, the arrest of Steve Hoover from Sonoy. We're told by the sheriff's office that he's 40 years old, he's married, has 2 children. Not sure what he does for a living, but he is facing some very serious charges. Could be facing more charges, depending, they say, on what they find on his electronic devices that they've seized, Tom.
It's incredible, Doug. The video you showed us of the suspect, the accused, Steve Hoover, getting arrested. He has a wife and 2 kids, married. Probably going to have a job that's going to be affected by this. And yet, the sort of smirk and look on his face as he was facing this very serious situation just really caught my attention. Remarkable.
Tom, I cover a lot of these cases here in Coweta County because they do investigate them so thoroughly and do make a lot of arrests, a lot more arrests probably than a lot of jurisdictions around here. but I've seen dozens and dozens of these videos, and it just never surprises me what you see in terms of what they're wearing, like this guy wearing this T-shirt. I covered one the other day, Tom, where the guy comes out his front door, he sees the deputies there waiting for him, and he knows exactly why they're there. And he turns around and he puts his hands behind his back.
Extraordinary. And let's just be thankful that the folks down there are on top of situations like this, and that they're so aggressive in going after predators and people online who might be exploiting or ultimately harming children. Doug Evans. Doug, thanks. Want to talk about our weather now. Take you live outside for a look at the skies, which are getting cloudy outside. But what's not happening is the cooler temperatures that we experienced early last week. Okay, and we were talking about temperatures down into the 20s, which really made it feel like the holiday season. Meteorologist Alex Forbes at Cummings City Center, where there's going to be a big Christmas tree lighting this weekend. The only problem, Alex, is it's just going to keep getting warmer.
It is going to keep getting warmer, and also might mix in some showers before all is said and done through the weekend. Yeah, this Saturday, it's a full day here at Cummings City Center. We've got the winter market from 9 to 5, and then the Christmas tree lighting behind me back there at 6 o'clock Saturday evening. Now, we are looking for the possibility of showers, which we'll talk about that coming up here in a few minutes. But first, let's talk about the warmth that we have for the end of the week, all right? We are going to be pushing record-breaking territory officially for Hartsfield-Jackson. The records as we find our way towards Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in the upper 70s, at least the way we see it now, expecting to come close tomorrow, expecting to break the record on Thursday with a high temperature of 81 in Atlanta, and then expecting to tie the record by the time we get to Friday. Of course, if we go any warmer on Friday, we are going to break that afternoon high temperature record set back a while ago. So headed into Thanksgiving, Tom, we're going to be doing it on the warmer side. Let's check out the forecast here and coming now for Saturday. This is going to be for the market, again, from 9 to 5, and then the Christmas tree lighting comes your way at 6 o'clock. Looking for some showers potentially earlier in the day. I think the better chance of rain is going to be overnight Friday into Saturday, but some of those showers could linger into early Saturday morning, but we will clear out for the most part as we find our way into the evening hours and as the sun sets right around 5:30.
Alex, what explains this sort of sudden increase in temps? I mean, I know we have weather patterns and such, but we were really feeling like it was finally fall. It's the holiday season. We're knocking on the door of Thanksgiving, and now suddenly we're back into the upper 70s.
Right, going from one extreme to another, and the biggest reason for it is, everything really goes back to our wind direction here in Georgia. We saw the big surge of air mass, really, out of the northwest. That was the cooler temperatures last week, and now we've seen a big surge from the Gulf back up into Georgia. Whenever you get that air mass from the Gulf down there and relocates itself over the Peach State, that's when you're going to get temperatures to skyrocket. We've also got high pressure back over the Carolinas at place, which is helping that breeze come up from the south. But what I'm looking for, all right, as we look big picture in terms of the air masses over the next 2 weeks, is that you're going to get another surge of that Canadian air by the time we find our way to right around Thanksgiving, if not maybe the day after Thanksgiving. So I think we might go from one extreme to another, which is where we are now, maybe back to that other extreme by next week.
All right. We're enjoying it. I mean, it's nice outside. Nothing wrong with a little warmer weather as we kind of knock on the door of winter. Alex Forbes, Cummings City Center. Saturday is going to be the big Christmas tree lighting, and from what I can see behind you, looks really nice there where you are, Alex. Thanks.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Beautiful, spectacular. All right, Alex, appreciate it. As we continue here, we interviewed somebody here on the 3 p.m. stream not too long ago who was holding sort of a local Everest challenge. What do I mean by that? They climbed Stone Mountain enough times to make it equivalent to climbing Everest. It's an extraordinary story, and one person came out on top. We're going to speak to them as we continue here. Welcome back to the 3 p.m. streaming hour. I'm Fox 5's Tom Haines with you live here in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. You know, it's a story of resilience, adventure, and community. We're talking about the climb to the summit of Everest, but right here in our own backyard. It happened back on November the 8th and 9th. It's known as Everesting, and it took place on Stone Mountain, I believe, 36 times up and down to make it the equivalent to scaling Everest. We talked about this here on the stream weeks before it happened, and the energy behind it and the people involved. Clark Robinson came out on top, the winner, so to speak. Monica Runs organized this event. Guys, thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. So this was climbing Stone Mountain enough times to get up to the summit of Everest. Clark, tell us about, number one, how you trained to do something like this and why you did it.
Yeah, so I kind of found out about it maybe a month and a half before it actually started, but I consistently do ultra marathons, so I somewhat stay in shape to, you know, accomplish endurance events just in general. Now, when I actually signed up for the race, I really just started going out to Stone Mountain. I would hike it every day, multiple times. You know, sometimes I would go up it 5 times, do a loop around it, and then go up another few times. But you know, being in kind of the endurance athlete community, there are so many events. You know, a lot of them have done 100-milers, 200-milers, and things like that. But I found this one that Monica came up with, and I love the Stone Mountain hike. It's one of my favorite hikes, and I've done hikes all over the world, South Korea, you know, all throughout the United States, and I had to jump on this one, and just the super unique 36 ascents, 72 miles, which I broke my personal record for distance on this one. So wow. Really, I just want to thank Monica for coming up with this event.
Yeah, it's a really cool, innovative idea, and I love that it's happening right here in Atlanta. Does it inspire you? I don't know if you've ever been to Everest or gone up to the base camp or whatever, but does it inspire you to go over there and do the real thing?
Personally, yes. I would love to do the real thing, and Monica's actually been there. She could talk about it, but that is definitely on my bucket list, yes.
Monica, we've talked to you about this event. We promoted it here on the stream. It sounded so cool, and you pulled it off without a hitch. Tell us again what the inspiration behind doing this actually was.
Well, yeah, so Everesting is, like we know, getting to a mountain and ascending it as many times as necessary to get to the elevation of Everest. And that event, the official one, is extremely expensive for a lot of people. And so I wanted to make one that was within a price point that I felt a little bit more reasonable to be able to get more people to be able to be exposed to it. And so that was my motivation for creating this event here locally. And yeah, I think it'll just grow in time as I continue to do it.
Did you see enthusiasm out there? I mean, like you said, it is sort of a new endeavor, but you have Clark, who was the ultimate winner of this thing. What about the people that showed up? Are they excited to keep on doing something like this?
Oh, yeah. Like, it was the amount of attention that it gained from just the people who were going to the mountain that day, or who came over to the aid stations, and they talked with us, and they hadn't heard about it in advance, but they said they would like to do it, you know, in the future, and they were really excited to learn more about it. And it really did garner a lot of attention. And yeah, it was actually surprising to me the amount of people who expressed interest, even ones who are not in the endurance field. Like, they'd said that, you know, they'd like to try and experience that type of endeavor.
Clark, as an extreme athlete, us lay people are always looking for inspiration, not necessarily to do what you do, but to reach our best and to max out our potential. Do you sort of like coach or help people get mentally prepared for whatever it is they're doing?
Not in a formal setting, you know, like I have family members that, you know, they know that I do this, and I give them advice all the time. I've got my sister about to do a marathon here in a couple months, and she's asking me for advice. And then I'm in the Army right now, so, you know, the physical aspect to that, and giving advice to soldiers and things, but formally coaching, I don't actually do that.
Well, we appreciate your service, certainly. Monica, this was held on November 8th and 9th. When is your next event happening?
I haven't officially released the date, but I'm looking for it to be sometime in the summer, most likely in the May timeframe.
And real quick, do the proceeds go to benefit anything, or is this sort of a self-contained operation?
As of now, it's a self-contained operation. It's very small. I'm looking to, of course, grow it and expand it and see where it goes from there. But as of now, the proceeds just go into being able to continue to, buy all the stuff that's necessary to run this event.
All right. It's called Everesting. Happens at Stone Mountain. And Monica Runs is the organizer. Clark, congratulations on winning. And Monica, we look forward to talking to you for the next big event. Appreciate you being with us this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. As we continue here, we always talk about programs to help people get a leg up in the skilled trade workforce. It's such an important segment of our employment base, and there's a group out there helping people do just that, a fair, if you will, in Atlanta. And our Chris Rosenthal is out there watching kind of what they're doing and how they're trying to help people get a leg up. Chris?
That's right. The program's called Construction Ready, and this was their 50th class, actually, that they've had. These classes go for about a month. These are for entry-level people trying to get into the construction trades, and they just wrapped up for the day. They actually had a career fair for these students. They're wrapping up their session and get ready to graduate on Friday. The skilled trades, there is such a demand for skilled labor, but the problem is getting them, getting unskilled labor trained up to be skilled. So that's why they have programs such as this. These students walk away from this program with some various entry-level certifications, some OSHA certifications, and today about 17 or so employers came out to interview with these students. It was 30 students total. Trying to interview for various professions, for welding, electrical, HVAC. You may have heard of the Centennial Yards project over at the Gulch, which is right down the street from here. I'm at Westside Works. Many of these students will potentially be involved in that project and funneled into that project. These students actually are part of, these students actually come from this area, from the Vine City, English Avenue area.
These are practical skills, Chris. It's so great to learn about resources here in our own community to give these folks licensing, practical skills, and seemingly and relatively great salaries out in the workforce. Chris Rosenthal. Chris, thanks. And thank you for joining us for the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm Tom Haines, live with you in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. So glad you're with us today. The news will continue right here, right now.